Thank you to all of you for being here. So my name's Liên, Shutt. My pronouns are she and they. Anyone new today to IMC? All right, special welcome to both of you. All right. I don't know about you all, but I've been really tired lately. And yesterday I took a nap. It was a little late. It was like after 3, so my girlfriend and I thought, okay, we'll take what we'd like to call a nano nap, just a short nap, because we don't sleep that well, but we know we shouldn't nap so we could sleep better, but we were so tired. And I will say that when I lived at the monastery, I trained myself to take nano naps. Because we didn't have a lot of time, but it was very hot and tiring, so I lie on my back when I want to take a nano nap, and then when I hear myself have a little snore, then I wake up, and usually it's like 8 to 10 minutes. And I noticed yesterday I was so tired that I did it 3 times, and each time I woke up, I realized I had so much anxiety in my chest, and a real pressure and just tightness. And I know that, for the conditions of the world, and to me, and the nation, and I would say to me, having lived in Egypt, the stuff in the Middle East is especially hard right now. And so I've done my share also of distraction from the unease, from the worry, from the anxiety. And I like to do jigsaw puzzles as a wholesome way of distraction. So I'm going to talk to you about jigsaw puzzles. This could be found in Sutta number... No, I'm kidding. No. A very thick tome in my life, but not the suttas. I'm adopted, and my father used to love to do puzzles, so we did. It kind of was the only family thing that we did that, in retrospect, didn't have a lot of right and wrong, good or bad, and we do have a form though, right? And I love doing puzzles, and when I go to do a puzzle, I love doing puzzles. During the pandemic, it was so great, right? Did you guys have exchange of puzzles during the pandemic, your family, knowing other people? Yeah. So whenever I get a box, I'm really very excited. And, you dump out the boxes of pieces, and it's a little tedious, that part where you turn it all, up so that you can see the picture. And then... you want that because you need to see what the picture is, right? And then there's a lot of sorting and evaluating, a lot of discriminating and discerning that's needed, right? In my family, we gather the edge pieces separately, and you put that together first, right? That's how we go about it. And there's a certain amount of excitement and then confidence, because you start to see pieces, right? You're like, oh, I know where that one's going to go, and I really have a sense of I'm going to be able to do this. A lot of confidence. This is going to be so easy. It's going to be so fun, and so for me, it's a really exciting and fun time. And I actually even, because I like it so much, and I even start to imagine when it's finished. Even when I'm opening it up, I'm like, and that last piece is always so satisfying, isn't it? So already that's there. And so I'm working towards that satisfaction. Now, as I just shared, in my family, we mostly just sort the edge pieces and then the other pieces, and then we put together the edge right away. And this puzzle that I've got, which I got at Goodwill, was a puzzle of birds with birch branches, and some, branches coming out. I don't know birds or trees very well. So there were 6 birds, and I'll just say there was a cardinal. I could identify a cardinal, and then a blue jay, and then I don't know what the other 4 birds were, but there were some black ones with stripes and yellow ones, right? So someone was also doing the puzzle with me, and I'll just say their name is Jane, just to use a name. And she was saying that her family, when they sorted after they finished, they also then put it into bags, so then you don't have to go searching for the edge pieces again. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea, right? That's a good idea. And so as I sorted them into categories, I put the red ones in a pile, right? The yellow ones in a pile. What looks like maybe you see little eyes, or you see the beak, and you start to put them into piles like that. I don't know. That's how we do it. And so as we go, we need to differentiate. And actually, we start to see more and more of the complexity of what just, is a cardinal or a jay or yellow bird, or birds. And sometimes some of the pieces seem very clear, and some of the pieces are really blurry. And you also start to see the subtlety of what makes up, the feathers. Like a yellow bird can also have some ochre, some darker color, brighter colors, right? So, at first, that's kind of the fun part, and then as you start to put together, at some point it becomes angstful. It's so fun at the beginning when you're doing it, and then you see 2 pieces and you just know. You just know they go together, and you click them together, and it's so satisfying. And so you start to put the bird together, but then at a certain point, it isn't so easy. And as we're looking for different ways to put the picture together, we have different ways, right? At one point, Jane said to me, I need a piece with 2 heads and 3 arms, and I give her a piece, and she said, no, I want, the 2 heads to be this way and the 2 arms to be like this, and you gave me, 2 heads this way, and, so that's not the right one. And I said, well, I like to go by color more than, the shape of it. But I thought, okay, all right, that's a different way. Now, I also started to realize, how is it that we go looking for the pieces? Do we go looking for the missing piece? So here's this cardinal, and I go looking for the piece that I think is missing? Is it from a sense of the energy that goes to look for that? Because I could get really obsessive, like I have to find this piece. Do you do that with a puzzle or not? Yeah? You just get obsessed in this one little corner or one image. And so is there a sense then is there a sense of lack until that missing piece is found? Is a way to go looking for the piece that fits about that click, that connection that happens? Is it going to look for the right piece? That's the wrong piece. which is the right piece, which is the perfect piece. So I start to realize that there's an attitude to what I'm doing. It's not just a matter of the task or the doing itself. I mean, besides the excitement, obviously that one was easy. Is an attitude of doing this puzzle one of sharing. Is it competitive? Is it taking over? Or is it being too helpful? Oh, here's a piece. Here's a piece. Right? Am I offering too many pieces to someone? Because oftentimes, you say, okay, I'll take this bird and you take that bird. I'll do this corner, right? And then there's also, I like to do like 1,000 pieces, right? So it takes more than one day. I have to admit that sometimes I give myself a whole day and I can do a puzzle, 1,000 pieces in a day. Those are such great days for me. But in general, they take several days, and when you do it with other people, people start to say, I'm doing this one and I'm doing that one. And someone was doing the cardinal and they weren't there some of the time. So I found a piece and I put it in there. And then I found another piece and I put it in there. And I thought, wait, maybe I shouldn't be working on this because, again, is this being too helpful? Is this doing something to the point in which I'm taking over? And then there's also, when you start to think it goes to one bird, but you realize that it starts to go with other birds, especially when a lot of puzzles, they, for the most part, unless you choose like 100 piece or 300 piece, they want to make it my idea, I am not a puzzle maker, they want to make it kind of hard for you. So, right? So even though you think you can tell the distinction, they start to blend. So oftentimes you have, in this case, like I had 3 birds working at once. And the other person was doing a bird of a similar color. And so I offered them one, and they were like, no, that's your puzzle there. You should keep on doing that, right? And so where's the sense of whose part is which? So how is it that we're engaging with this? And then when they said, it's your puzzle, they walked away. And I thought, whoa, what happened? What happened here? Where is it that when we're engaging with something and it starts to be not so easy, the pieces aren't clicking together, what you think is this bird isn't this bird? When is it, or how is it that we stop engaging in the activity? Or is it that sometimes, you think, especially on days in which it's, you're spending time with someone. And of course, my girlfriend and I are very busy these days. And we're both essentially gig workers, right? We go where we're offered work or, teachings, in my case. And so we have very little time, but sometimes when we have time together, it's very hard to go, what do you want to do? No, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And so sometimes, she'll do a puzzle because she knows I want to, but then at some point, it feels like, is she engaging just to, give in? And so sometimes when she starts to go off, I have a feeling like, maybe I'm kind of, not forcing her by any means, but is there a way in which the interest in doing this is, not being, that's not hers. And so at what point does it become staying against, not really against your will, we're talking about jigsaw puzzle, but when is it that it isn't feel so smooth, right? And so what is it that, when is it that we walk away and start to do something? right? Maybe to go get something to eat, maybe to, you know, some of it's just maybe you're hungry, but also that awareness of when is it that I I divert my attention from what's here. We're moving away. Sometimes, though, the moving is to get a different perspective. You know, I generally like to do my puzzle from, you know, if the picture is of trees going this way, I want to be here so I see the whole picture. But sometimes it's helpful to go from a different angle, isn't it? To look at the picture so that you can have a different sense of what might go there, what pieces might fit from a different perspective. And then there's the, you know, the way in which sometimes I'm so frustrated that I will walk away, for sure. And then, of course, again, if a puzzle is quite many pieces, we're not doing it the whole time. So a lot of time we, you know, go away and we come back, and then I find myself just looking at the puzzle and looking and finding a piece that's been missing. You know, oftentimes when we do the edge, we can't find all the edge pieces. And you just keep looking, but you just cannot see them. And then you go away, and then you come back and you find one, and you're like, that's it. And when you find one, then you have that energy, or I have that energy in which I go, okay, I found that one, so there are more here. I will find more. And then again, you find yourself obsessive. So I go away, and then it becomes this sense of, oh, maybe it's lucky to like go away and then come back. So this sense of, when is it that this is my doing, and when is it that I let go in some sense, you know, it became kind of a joke, like it's lucky. We should just go away and then we come back. Is it just fresh eyes? I don't know, do you know? But I know my girlfriend and I, sometimes we impute the sense of luck. Is it really luck? I don't know, but it feels that way. And then there's also, you know, when I was doing this blue jay, I had all the blue pieces in front of me. And I'm putting them together, and they don't fit, you know. Keep on doing, and then they're a pretty limited number of pieces. And so then I go to the, you know, those piles where you're not quite sure what is, and I keep looking for pieces that I know go to the blue jay. So just keep looking and keep looking. And yet all the pieces are in front of me. All the pieces are in front of me. Right? So maybe you already got it, but what I'm trying to point here is that there are patterns of thinking and perceiving, conditioned ways of processing and being with information and being with situations. I mostly think I go to do a jigsaw puzzle because of the content, right? There's a picture. You get it, you know, jigsaw puzzle has a picture. It's very clear what the end result is. And it's about putting it together. It's a task. And yet the process of how that picture comes together, how you engage with it, shows itself in the doing. Now, I want to be really clear, right? What I list some, is it looking for a missing piece, a sense of lack? Is it about being competitive? Is it about being, you know, mine and yours? Right? Now, I want to be very clear that noticing these habitual patterns of either perceiving or thinking, one is not better than the other. Right? Noticing them is the key. Right? There is something in Buddhism called personality view, right? Sakkaya Ditthi. So how is it that when you make contact with something and then all your habitual thinking around it, your pancha, you could say, your grouping of stories that go with it, and then you solidify it into a sense of identity. Sometimes when we recognize our habitual pattern, then we go, oh, shit, I'm a competitive person. Oh no, I'm greedy. Right? Oh no, I'm so right and wrong. Or of course you're doing it to the other people that you're doing the puzzle with. So, I would like to say that practice isn't so much of figuring out whether I'm a greedy person or a competitive person. It isn't so much to solidify against a sense of self, right? It's more about being aware and open in that moment of perceiving a pattern. Maybe not rush so much to interpret what it means. Can we stay there and see and investigate what is right there? What happens right there? Do I contract? Do I shame, be it self or other? Do I, what is the movement of both heart and mind at that moment? You know, I know that with practice, I think that a dharmic moment, a time in which I am practicing well, is when I'm compassionate and open. Right? Classically, we could say without hate, greed, or delusion. And yet, mostly in practice, I find I hate, greed, and delude a lot. Right? And so to me, that's a dharmic moment. That's the opportunity. That's the fun, really. In some ways, our practice isn't actually, it's great. It's great to come to a Dharma talk or a meditation or a chant or a service. But a dharmic moment is when we wake up, right? We have a sense of what is happening, a clarity of knowing. And we rush to figure out what we should do about that. And I'm not even telling you that this is what you should do. I'm suggesting that that moment is a moment, can you just stay open and noticing what happens right then. Very much in sensation, very much in the quality of feelings, by that I mean emotions, very much in the quality of thinking. And there is also a sense of a choice in that moment. It isn't purely a moment of awareness. It's important. And in that moment, you have a choice of how you interact with what you're aware of, and how do you keep on interact with what you're aware of, right? even I know when I think, well, what happens right then? I think of a whole process, right? I need to figure out the pattern. I need to go like this, right? And sometimes we see that as we practice, but the practice isn't to necessarily look for that all the time, right? So it's actually what is here, then what is here, then what is here, then what is here. I don't know about you, but in the meditation, obviously I'm giving a Dharma talk, so I think about the Dharma talk, then I go, what is here? I think about, I'm having lunch with someone afterwards, so I brought lunch, but it's in the fridge, and lunch, I want to remember the lunch, So I worry about that, and then I go, what's here? What's this moment? There's a practice of going, anxiety when I go lunch, right? Certainly. And in some ways I'm saying that, is part of this puzzle thing. And there's also what is right here, what is right here, what is right here. So it's the same heart and it's the same mind doing a jigsaw puzzle. And the sitting down to do the jigsaw puzzle, and the doing of the jigsaw puzzle, and the getting up from the jigsaw puzzle, and the interaction about what you do with the jigsaw puzzle. Obviously, I have crossword puzzle in my mind. So every moment is an opportunity to be aware and not a task. There's no having to finish in some way the puzzle. I mean, in some ways, it's a it's a way. I'm also aware that doing a jigsaw puzzle is a way of not really control. I haven't. Maybe I'm just waking up to that part of myself around a jigsaw puzzle that is about control. I'm just noticing that right now. Because I was going to say, to do a jigsaw puzzle, you buy the picture. You already know. You already know what's the end result. Maybe it's also about which ones you find interesting to put together. My father loved those ones that are like, this is in the 80s, so remember Escher? All right, there's one of the stairs going to, he liked those kind of. And then also, people like to give him puzzle, you know how dads are, the very limited things you feel you can give them, so. One time we got, a black cat with 2 yellow eyes. It was a big square one. So much black. So much black. I've decided I do not like those kind of puzzles. I'll confess, actually. I wasn't going to add this part, but I'll confess. Because my favorite kind of puzzles are so busy. So busy. Like a yard sale puzzle, those yard sale puzzles? Or the garage that's just filled with things. And I know I like it because, hey, there are many little things I can put together, and then they're done, right? And so that's fun to me, to go from thing to things, right? So obviously, my mind is inclined towards certain ways of being with conditions, right? And that's okay. When I'm doing a jigsaw puzzle, at least when I do it, it's for fun. It's not a challenge in the sense of, I have to do something hard. And is it that wanting to know what is going to be the end result? Again, that last piece is so satisfying. So how we do a jigsaw puzzle, or how I do a jigsaw puzzle, is really about engaging in the pieces in the heart and the mind as I am doing that, and with others. The thing is also, puzzles come to you. Even if you go to buy one, unless you buy the wrapped one. Like you go to Goodwill, and even if it has tape around it or saran wrap, you can get home and there are pieces missing. What happens then? So maybe we think, maybe you already have a jigsaw picture of your rest of your day, that you're going to go and find the pieces to put in, and who you're going to do it with. And maybe you have a jigsaw puzzle view of the world and how the image that you would like it to be. And that's okay. You already have it. Might as well be okay with it. And how it comes together is, and how you respond as you interpret how it comes together, to me is practice, which actually isn't different from living. Maybe the difference as a practitioner is there an awareness of what is here, what is the heart's and mind response, what is the heart's and mind allowing for input, and what is the heart and mind as it negotiates the view we have chosen and the mirrored things that come forth and reveal themselves to us. Thank you for listening. All right. Are there any pieces you'd like to share with me? And I always invite people, maybe a little shy, maybe you wouldn't be the first one to talk. So give it a try. But it's not, it's a choice.
Actually, Liên, your talk really moved me, particularly because my brother got Alzheimer's, and he, at the beginning of Alzheimer's, he was very, very good at jigsaw puzzles. He could do ones that I couldn't do. And then, of course, as the disease progressed, he had to do simpler and simpler ones, and eventually he couldn't do them at all. In fact, I remember a moment when we had the edge pieces there, and he took one out and put it in the middle, and I thought, oh dear. Okay, it's not about completing the puzzle, it's about being together. And eventually he got to a point where he couldn't put words together in a sentence, but he would say the pieces, the pieces. And so it's just your talk is making me think of my brother in very fond ways. And thank you.
Thank you, Martha. I feel it in my heart, that story. Thank you.
Hi.
Tell me your name, please.
Oh, my name is Ken.
Hi, Ken.
And thank you for the talk. In part of your talk, you mentioned decisions or making a choice. Can you expand on that? In terms of, like, you're going through and doing the jigsaw puzzle, and you find a piece and you decide what you're going to do with it and how that relates to the Dharma talk. And
Well, there's a lot to be said about choice. Let me see if I can frame it in a way that maybe resonates or what your question is. In some ways, I know that I see the world as like a jigsaw puzzle. Sure, sometimes I think, oh, I choose an image. And then I say, oh, I've made a choice to work in this section. And I think it's useful because there's so much here, right? Especially when, in some ways, I go to do a jigsaw puzzle because things feel overwhelming. Right? Maybe now I'm getting my control thing in a little bit here, right? Because this is something I can do something about, right? And I actually can, for myself, can have fun doing it. But noticing when it doesn't become fun is part of the moment of choice. So at first, we approach things by saying, do I have a choice or not? And then for many of us, we think, oh, I don't have a choice here. Right? Even though we've picked the picture and we say, I'm going to work on this section, part of practice is realizing when does that section that you made the choice, when does it that you think you don't have a choice anymore? It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. I can't put this together. And then you start to, what do you do then? Right? Do you go off to do another piece? And, that's not bad. Like in a jigsaw puzzle, we can say, oh, that's just, I'm going off to do over here. And in some way, our practice is that we say, there's certain things that you focus on, right? In my family, we focus on the border, right, first. So there are some parameters of how we can view. And certainly, Buddhism will give you a view. The Four Noble Truths is the view of Buddhism, right? There's suffering, their origins of suffering, there are causes, right? And then there's the end of suffering, and then the Eightfold Path. So in some ways we can be given a view, but Buddhism isn't actually, that's just the map. But the doing, the traveling is where you start to see, oh, how do I relate to the view of the world? Right? And with practice, there's several ways of talking about it. You could say, I need to keep on until I understand, if I have chosen this view of the world, right? I keep on meeting it with the teaching of how to view. Buddhism gives you a teaching of how to view. Right? But the practice is not that there's skillful ways and unskillful ways for sure, and hopefully it has less greed, hate, and delusion. That would be the main thing in Buddhism, right? When we have a choice, we go towards non-greed, renunciation, greed. So greed is renunciation, hate is metta, right? So towards goodwill instead of ill will, and then towards karuna or compassion instead of cruelty, right? So yes, in some way that's it, but the doing or the understanding that you always have a choice, right? Because what is renunciation? I could tell you what the sutta says with some notes, like what is renunciation, but until you go and practice it and realize what kind of choice you make and pay attention to what might be the result. That might be the other thing. So don't forget the first noble truth is really the Eightfold Path to understand, the way to understand the first of the Eightfold Path is skillful understanding or skillful view of the world, which is what? The Four Noble Truths. And this is the part that people forget, karma. Karma is the big view, the big, big, big view. And the big, big view that's dependent upon causes and conditions. Right? So, And cause and condition is dependent upon choice, volition. Karma means action, volitional action, actually. So it's not just passive action. We might think that things come to us and we're passively receive them, but in each moment, we have a choice about what we do about it. Hatred certainly can come our way, and we can be taught hatred without a doubt. We're all taught hatred. We're all taught hatred. I have not met a person who has not been taught hatred. Whether they become enlightened from that to something else, but we're all taught hatred. What do we do at that moment? What do we do? Sure, there's teaching to help us, and in that moment, we have a choice. And yes, we have teachings to help us know how to make better choices, or the choices towards non-harming. And some of that has to do with really having a sense of what is the motivation, which is the second part of the Eightfold Path, right? Skillful thinking, which is actually the wisdom part, which is actually, thinking is not passive in Buddhism. Thinking is always purposive, because our thinking becomes beliefs, which then goes into the Sila section of the Eightfold Path, which is the interactive, skillful speech, skillful action, and skillful livelihood, or living, I like to say. So that our thinking is really more, I like to say motivation, because your thinking drives you. That's why I like the word motivation. It gives you both the aspiration, and it gives you both the drive to do it. Gil likes attitude. Attitude to me, I like attitude, but to me that feels a little bit more big. I have an attitude, which it can become, certainly. I like motivation because I feel like, there's a little bit more wiggle room, right? Attitude feels a little bit like a little tight, but and it can get that for sure. Does that answer your question?
In many ways, yes.
Okay, yeah, it was very, choice is so big, right? Choice is so big. There is free will in Buddhism, for sure.
Thank you. So, Liên, I don't know if you'll be able to stick around and talk to people afterwards.
Sure.
For a little bit before
Sure.
lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I need to remember.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you. Thank you, everyone. Do we dedicate the merit? Or? Okay, let's dedicate the merit. All right. For any merit we accrue this morning, we dedicate to ourselves. Let non-harming love and compassion center us and guide us as we meet the conditions of our lives, be it in a jigsaw puzzle or the rest of the world. This we wish for all beings in the 10 directions and the 3 times. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.